Stan.
Dave.
Perfect.
Hi, Shane.
I could never be him.
Yeah, I know.
We all know that.
And I've been trying to get you to wear the Shane clothes I've been buying you.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to ask him what's in your pocket.
Dye my beard a little bit. Yeah. What's in your pocket?
Did you guys listen to What's in Your Pocket Level 5, our official debut episode?
I did.
I haven't yet. I'll be honest with you, but I haven't had time.
That's fine. It's only an hour. Who can find the time?
But also, we know that Devin mostly recreates with Magic and does not maybe care about the details of the imminent Switch 2 launch that was immediately overturned by wild terror speculation and other things. So
I will say I did watch the video.
The Switch video?
Yeah, it was good.
It was fun.
I just figured Devin would do like a live react stream while listening to What's That in Your Pocket.
He's done enough for us already, Stan. We don't need to ask Devin to waste more of his social capital on dragging us wherever we're going.
I want more. I want more.
You want more? Stan, how was the beach?
It was good.
Looked lovely.
I got some sun, got a little color. I don't think I burned myself.
Did you go to the Salty Dog or a Salty Dog, the regional favorite bar in South Carolina?
Nope.
No, did not.
No, we were near a small town called Beaufort.
Sure. Driven through it. I've driven through it before. It's literally on the way. I believe it's on the way or just off the way from Savannah to Hilton Head.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And we only went into Beaufort once. We spent most of the time at the house on the golf club.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's one of those situations.
Nice.
They have their own podcast, Beaufort.
Beaufort?
The Intercoastal Podcast.
What do you think they talk about? Who knows?
Who knows? I don't know. Where to get a good shrimp? I had some alligator. I had some frog legs, which I always enjoy both of.
But did you have pimento cheese?
I did not have any pimento cheese.
Is that not your thing?
I don't have an opinion one way or the other. It was not an option.
This intro is going great.
Yeah.
It's going great, Stan. Giving me a lot.
You're
Let's
not
just-
asking
He's
good
just
questions.
being honest.
Should we just call it now? Should we call it?
Should we just call the app?
Are we done? Nah, let's call it a podcast.
All right.
316 ends with tepid responses to how was vacation.
We'll see you next week.
Hello and welcome to episode 316 of The Dive Down, a Magic the Gathering podcast focused on the latest decks, trends, and strategies for the casual spike. My name is Stanislav here in Chicago, and with me on the line from somewhere in Massachusetts, it's the one and only Devin O'Donnell, aka Doomwake.
That's actually the name of the town. It's somewhere, Massachusetts.
I don't even know where you live.
I don't
You're
either.
so mysterious about it.
Oh, you think I do?
I would hope.
Yeah, allegedly.
Somewhere Massachusetts was like the city that was Stars Hollow's rival in Gilmore Girls, right?
I get Erie, Indiana vibes from somewhere in Massachusetts.
Erie, Indiana.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You know what that is?
I don't.
Devin, do you remember Erie, Indiana?
I don't either, no.
That was a Saturday morning television show. It was live action. It was like on after Goosebumps. I don't remember if it was on Nickelodeon or what channel it was officially on, but it was an American horror science fiction television series that aired on NBC from September 15th, 1991 to December 9th, 1993.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in diapers at that point, so
Well, I watched the syndication.
I was
I see.
having a pack a day at that point.
I'm glad that you finally kicked the habit, though.
Yeah, I mean, it took a minute, but I'm good now.
Yeah, it had like Twilight Zone for kids vibes, I guess is the way. But it all took place in one town. So maybe it's like Twin Peaks for kids.
Okay.
Was it Hawkins? Was it Hawkins, Indiana, by any chance?
It's literally called Erie, Indiana.
I know. I'm just kidding. Because Hawkins, Indiana is where Stranger Things is, right?
Yeah. That is where Stranger Things is.
Okay.
Tobey Maguire was in an episode.
Oh.
He went on to play Spider-Man. What have you done with your life, David?
I haven't played Spider-Man.
That's for damn sure.
I will tell you that this week I did put together a little meta analysis for us to look at what's happened in Modern since the bans, to maybe try to give us a bit of a preview about what's coming up next in Modern, to try to figure out how to fill this awkward week between a ban and when a new set drops.
Yeah.
So this week, we're going to take a look at 9 challenges that happened between Thursday and Monday of this week. Look at the results, talk about decks that showed up, see if there were any cool decks, all within Modern, to give us an impression of what might happen next. Got a couple of takeaways to consider, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, it is kind of that weird time. I feel like the ban list just couldn't have happened at a worse time, where it was right after that Pioneer tournament that was dominated by Red, and then, right before the new set. So it's like there's a lot of downtime here, but
yeah. Or it's the best time where it's like, hey, we know there's weird stuff coming. Let's just do the ban, and then Tarkir can come in and make a great impression on everybody. And then the other thing that we will do, hopefully, is talk a little bit about, after we go through Modern, about Devin's early impressions of playing with some Tarkir cards. I have a few thoughts about playing with Tarkir cards after pre-releasing, and just talk about things that are starting to stand out to us. I think that's going to be enough for a show. It's going to be a little appetizer of Dragonstorm.
Dave, didn't you pre-release Dragonstorm?
I did, with your friends.
And don't you forget it. How did that go for you, by the way?
I went 2-1.
Hey.
I played Sultai. I ordered Mardu. Mardu was my kit, and then I opened not enough good Mardu cards and ended up playing Sultai, mostly because the first pack in my promo pack was this guy.
ooh,
Foil Craterhoof Behemoth,
Pretty good.
which I did hoof people.
You hoofed?
I won 5 games. I came very close to winning, to going 3-0. By 1 turn, I missed. In those 5 games that I won, I hoofed people 3 times for the win.
big hoofer.
Yeah. Oh, I was hoofing.
He came, he hoofed, he went 2-1 at the pre-release.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's okay, especially because when I opened my pool, I was like, wow, my Mardu is so bad, and I think my deck is really bad. Like, what am I going to do here? And then it went pretty well.
How did the pre-release go? Because I think the last time, at least when they did Tarkir before, they had like a special clan pack that only had cards from that clan, right?
That's
Same
how
thing?
it works this time too. Yeah. So you pick what clan you wanted to be, and then you got a pack that was seeded with uncommons and commons and an on-clan rare, basically, to help you kind of push in that direction. But it wasn't enough for everybody to do it. Like, I think about half of people who do this end up doing a different deck anyway.
Wow.
Just because that's how it goes in sealed, right?
True.
Devin, did you pre-release? I guess not, based on the question.
I didn't know.
Do you ever?
It's been a while. I think the last time I did a pre-release was March of the Machines. I don't know. Limited's not really my thing. And I really don't play any limited except Cube.
Wow.
Not that I hate it. It's just,
You're just scared.
I want to focus on standard and modern.
I mean, Devin and I met at a limited tournament, so he did play at one time.
that is true. That was,
It was a sealed PTQ.
That was the DreamHack, right? The day 2 of DreamHack, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to say shout out to both your friends, Danny and Bryce, who I went to pre-release with, Stan, and hopefully they're becoming my friends, maybe.
I think they told me that they tolerate you.
Yeah, that's fair. Most people do. And then at Dark Tower Comics in Logan Square in Chicago is where I went. Lovely store, nice people, great crowd, really fun crowd. Actually, I will say, for their 7 o'clock pre-release on Saturday night, it was like 30 people plus. Everybody was very cool. We were listening to music. Like, it was fun. It was like a good jovial atmosphere for the pre-release there. So I could definitely recommend the store.
Was this the former Gmart? That's
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what it used to be called.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to really like that shop a lot when I lived in Logan, and haven't been there in a while. I certainly haven't visited the comic shop or the card shop since I moved, but it's nice to see that they're doing well.
Yeah, great stuff.
Did you know that's the shop that got me back into Magic?
Yes, I did know that. that at the part of the stand myth is you were on the square one day, right? And then bought some pre-release packs or something.
It was a beautiful sunny weekend day, and I was hanging out with my friend Nathan. We were watching the Hunger Games
In the park?
at his apartment.
Okay.
Probably doing something illicit. And we were like, hey, man, let's go to the comic book store and buy some Magic decks, man. And we did. And then we played cards in the park under the Eagle Monument statue. And I basically never stopped since that day.
There you go. When was that? They were Theros, right? Was that 2014-ish?
It was
2013?
It was the Theros Black-White Enchantment pre-constructed deck that had Doomwake Giant as the face card.
Yeah. I remember those.
Wow. It's all full circle.
Theros,
That's right.
Theros was actually the first PTQ that I won.
Oh, really?
Yep.
There you go.
Sick. All right, that's a lot of lore and mythology for one intro. We should housekeep because we have a new patron. Communicate.
Yeah.
What's up, dog? I'm communicating to you right now through the podcast. Thank you for becoming a patron of the Dive Down Nation. We also got a lot of comments, a handful of comments on the last episode on Spotify.
Yeah. The last couple of episodes, I got to say, we've had a good amount of comments. So thank you, everybody, for commenting on that. We had Alina, who said, brilliant episode, great show, excellent chemistry between the hosts, high level of knowledge and understanding of the game. What's not to love? And then we had a bunch of other people that were basically like, Deathrite Shaman is fine in Modern, you absolute melons. So don't. We had like 3 or 4 people who took the time to write in about that. Hey, I get it. We can agree to disagree, friends, about this, but I don't think it's happening. So I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Did they actually use the M word?
No,
okay.
The melons.
Yeah.
No, I that's me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Devin, can I volunteer your time? If someone puts in the work to write out a halfway decent, logical looking version of a contemporary Deathrite Shaman list in Modern, Devin and I can review it and then maybe put it through just like a very brief gauntlet of your list versus some of the top decks in Modern. I don't even want to spend more than an hour or 2 on this, frankly.
Yeah, I told you, I'm down.
I know you're down, but I don't want either of us to have to put in the work of writing the deck list.
Oh, okay. We're sourcing the deck lists.
I'm outsourcing the deck list to the people who think Deathrite Shaman is fine. We can like talk about it and maybe improve a listener's deck building decisions if we feel strongly one way or the other. And then we'll actually try some games out. But if you feel strongly enough to leave a comment, surely you're willing to email us a deck list at thedivedown@gmail.com.
We might even record the footage. Who knows?
Well, why not?
We should. I'm happy to edit it for you guys. Maybe I could sit on the sidelines and commentate.
Sounds like
a couple of melons here missing land drops.
Sounds like a YouTube video to me.
Yeah, I think it does. All right. So if you want to see it, I guess send a deck list in any of the several people who are not happy with that take.
If you want to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/thedivedown. We added it to the main feed last week. Thank you to everyone who shared comments and encouragement to the first official sister show of the Dive Down. We've been talking about it as a Patreon exclusive. It's officially gone public. What's that in your pocket? Even though we put out the episode for Switch 2 announcement reactions on the Dive Down main feed, we don't plan to do that again. We've started our own feed for What's That in Your Pocket. It's me and Shane talking about handheld gaming, which is our favorite way to game while holding hands. And subscribe to What's That in Your Pocket wherever you get podcasts. Please and thank you. I think the future is in video games.
The future is.
The future.
Okay.
Have you seen Ready Player One?
No, I've seen Tron, though. You think that we're going to be sucked into video games like Tron? Like we're going into video games?
I think we will do it willingly like Ready Player One because we will be living in stacks of trash.
Yeah.
I'm not going willingly. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
That's funny. All right. If you'd like to support us without going via Patreon, go check out our store at thedivedown.com/store. You can also support us a little bit if you go to Heavy Play. Use code the Dive Down 2025 for 10% off your first order of the best gear to keep your cards safe and your tournaments easy. A lot of people loving heavy play at Dark Tower. I got to tell you, I ran into 2 or 3 people who are also heavy play, living the heavy play life. Mana Traders is the place where we rent Magic Online cards. You can use code the Dive Down. No numbers or anything anymore, and you can get 25% cash back after 3 months of service from Mana Traders. And those are the places you can help us out.
Okay.
What are we doing?
We talked about it being a weird week.
Yeah.
I was on vacation, no time to play Magic. Dave was glued to the computer screen, downloading results from MTGO Modern Challenges the moment they would come in, copying and pasting, putting them into Google Sheets, insert data, pivot table, organizing the cells, arranging the rows, adjusting the variables, and putting together a snapshot of what post-ban, pre-Tarkir modern competitive looks like.
Yeah. And here it is, Stan, the proof. I made the pivot tables. Are you proud of me now, Dad?
Yes, son. I'm proud.
Yes. Perfect. All right. So I have a few different things that we want to do. We're going to go through this meta in descending order. Like I said earlier, 9 challenge events from Thursday to Monday for a total of 288 deck submissions across those tournaments. I thought, of course, it's 288 decks just because we only get data on the top 32s of challenges. So that's what we have to look at. So these are all top 32 metas. So what we're going to look at is the top 32 meta, which we're considering kind of your day one meta, your broad pool of what's going on in Modern, even though that basically means decks that at least had a 500 win rate in challenges. You know, there aren't too many decks with a losing record that sneak into the top 32. But as Devin can attest, sometimes you can sneak into the top 32 of a challenge with a 500 record.
Sub 500.
Sub 500. Well, you were 3-3.
Yeah, I didn't play the last round.
Right. So you just popped out. So you kept it. You kept it clean.
Sure.
So there's that. And then we'll look at what's been in the top 8s. And then we'll talk really quickly about what won these challenges. So of the of these top 32, 288 decks, here are the decks that had more than 10 copies. Boros Energy, 46 copies, or 16% of the top 32 meta. Dimir Murktide, 31 decks, or 10.76% of the meta. Eldrazi Ramp, 25 decks, or 8.68% of the meta. Let's just stop there for a second. Any surprises there?
I mean, kind of Dimir Murktide. Like, this is not really a deck that was very well represented prior to the Breach ban. And what's weird to me is that I would have kind of assumed that Dimir was better pre-Breach ban because Boros was being kept in check by Breach, and Dimir has a bad Boros matchup. So as more people play Boros, I'm surprised to see Dimir being represented this highly.
Yeah. Guess what else also had a bad Breach matchup ultimately? Dimir. I think actually did as well.
It? Really?
I, in my experience, it did. There were a bunch of people when we were researching Breach back when we did a deck dive into it who are also saying secretly Dimir is not a hard matchup for this deck. And here's the way to approach the matchup. So I kind of believed it after playing both sides of those decks at different points over the last 6 weeks. So maybe it was being held in check a little bit. I guess the one thing out of these top 3 that surprised me a little bit is I kind of thought it would be, Dimir being this high again was a surprise. I definitely thought Eldrazi would be the second highest deck, if not the most played deck, potentially. So once we pass this kind of like top 3, the next 5 decks were Amulet Titan with 6.25% of the meta, Ruby Storm with 5.9% of the meta, Belcher with 4.5% of the meta, Black White with 4.17%, and Samwise Gamgee Combo with 3.5%. So of those last 5 decks, 4 of them combo decks, essentially, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, you can call White Black a combo deck. It's Affiliate plus Overlord, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's
different kind of combo.
synergy.
Yeah. I will say, these decks that I worked with are straight up the names from MTG Goldfish. So when I was looking through the deeper pivot table later, I did notice that there are another 5 decks that are labeled as Orzhov midrange in the top 32 that makes me think that Black White might have actually been slightly higher in the meta than what's indicated here. So we might have been up with Amulet Titan and Ruby Storm instead of down towards the bottom with Gamgee.
Oh, I wish I had fixed that for you.
That's okay. I didn't have time to normalize.
Right. So basically that brings it up to about 17 decks, which means it's a 6% of the meta, comparable with Ruby Storm.
Exactly.
Yeah, that checks out, because I was going to comment that Orzhov being on the bottom half of the top 10 was very low, surprisingly low, considering where it was in the past. And I was about ready to infer that people didn't think it was good in a post-breach world, but here it is still, I think, hanging in there.
Yeah. It's both people thinking that these decks are better, and also this is a little bit of performance in this particular pool, right? Like we said, Demure is still the thing that I think is the biggest surprise here. The other one, honestly, to me is, I said last week, let's see what happens if maybe this new meta breeds a new combo deck that kind of shoots towards the top of the meta now that Breach is out of the way. And we have a bunch of candidates here in this top 8. We have Storm, Belcher, Titan, and Sam and Gamgee combo. I will note that when we were talking a couple of weeks ago about the Utrecht meta and then the Spotlight, or sorry, not the Utrecht meta, and then I think we did another meta check after that, we did have a couple people write in and say, you guys are sleeping on Samwise combo. We think it's really good. There's a bunch of people who are working on the deck, and I can't say from experience yet. I think as we move into this next season, maybe it's a deck that we'll look at a little bit to see if we want to play or talk about more. But it's certainly showing up more and more, and this meta sample is kind of evidence that it's starting to.
Yeah, I don't really remember Sam combo being a thing prior to the Breach ban, and I wonder if it's just one of the few combo decks that has, like, if I'm looking at the deck list, it feels like it has, obviously the fast combo kills, but has a good amount of disruption along the way with like Orcish Bowmasters, Grist, Court of Calling for those cards. So it feels like one of the combo decks that can reach the combo decks, but also kind of keep up with Boros in the battlefield.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, in Utrecht, there was a contingent of people who were playing it and did pretty well with the deck. Like, it wasn't enough that I think, I don't have the data in front of me now, but there were people who were popping it, I think, in the top 64 or top 100 placements with it. And that was when someone kind of reached out and said, hey, like, you should pay attention here. So I'm here to say we're starting to pay attention. Let's see where it goes. I really think that the thing that I was least surprised about here is that Belcher kind of jumped back up into people trying it and that it's doing pretty well. I was kind of thinking that was the deck that I had my eye on as far as combo goes. Not that I'm interested in playing it, but that I kind of wondered if that's where some stuff might start to appear again. And we can talk more about Belcher in a little bit.
Yeah, one quick thing on Belcher. A lot of these Eldrazi decks are cutting Karn, and that is a good sign for Belcher.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
Why is that?
Well, you just don't need Karn anymore without Breach. That was the main reason they were playing Karn in the first place. But without Breach, it's like kind of not necessary.
Right. And Karn was just main deck hate for the card Chart Belcher.
Yeah.
Stan, what do you think about the fact that Boros jumped up so high?
I think we expected that to happen. I think all that matters now is that it doesn't exceed its previous popularity or strength.
Yeah.
And I think that's still likely to happen. And I think that also explains why Belcher was so high as well, because Boros has a big Belcher problem. I think Boros has a really big problem with those types of I win combo decks in the first place. Even something like Splinter Twin can be good against Boros. In my limited experience playing against Splinter Twin, that if Boros remains at the top, I think Belcher is going to have like a really good environment to continue to succeed, especially as RCQ start this weekend.
Yeah. So why don't we take a look at the kind of next step of the funnel, which is the top 8 meta, and try to get an indication of how these decks perform, because I think we will have some stuff to talk about with Boros here. So of the top 8 meta, it's a lot less decks. It's 72 decks, of course, because 8 times 9 is 72. And what we have here is 10 Eldrazi Ramp, 10 Boros Energy decks, 8 Murktide, 5 Belcher, 5 Titan, 4 White Black, 4 Ruby Storm, and 3 Samwise combo.
I think this is a overperformance for Murktide.
It's about the same amount of the meta game as it was earlier. Here's what the overperformance.
But the fact that it's making top 8, I think, is impressive.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's an overperformance compared to, I think, what we've come to expect, which is Murktide is a little bit of like a punchline in the format. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So here, if just to give you like the risers and fallers here, there were 4 decks that were basically flat between the top 32 meta and the top 8 meta. Dimir went up about 1/3%. Titan went up just shy of 1%, 0.7%. Storm went down about 1/3%, and Samwise went up about a percent, 0.7%. So those are ones that I kind of considered flat. Here's the risers. Eldrazi went from being 8.68% of the top 32 meta to being 13.9% of the top 8 meta. Huge bump. 5% bump, the largest move that between any of these decks. And then Belcher went up 2.5%, and Black-White went up 1.5%. One thing about Black-White is that Bautista top 8'd 3 different challenges playing Orzhov this weekend.
Wow.
3 out of the 9 challenges that I looked at had.
It's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
A good conversion rate.
Yeah, pretty remarkable. Another thing that I thought was really interesting that I forgot to mention earlier when we were looking at the broader meta is that Energy, its meta share was largely driven by 2 different challenges. One had 9 Energy decks in the top 32, and one had 10 Energy decks in the top 32. The other ones weren't quite as much, but there was that kind of like really driven by that. And then the fallers here, Energy was negative 2.1%. So Energy went down quite a bit in the top 8 meta. It was represented less here than it was in the top 32.
Belcher up 2.5%.
Yeah, Belcher up 2.5%. One thing that I thought was really interesting is that these top 8 decks that were the top 8 in the meta were the exact same top 8 decks that were in the top 32 meta. So there wasn't like that something went from the broader meta and then got a lot better in top 8s or something that kept finding its way through. It's possible that for now, this might be the baseline that we're looking at going into the Tarkir format.
I would expect, assuming that Tarkir doesn't make a big impact on the format, which it very well could. I think Ugin has a lot of potential to change things, and there may be other cards that surprise us. I don't see Boros actually staying at the top throughout this post-Tarkir format, or in my mind, it's more of like the upcoming Modern RCQ season.
Right.
Just because Eldrazi is really good against Boros, and I think Eldrazi, Devin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Eldrazi is yet to find what its worst matchup is in a post-Breach metagame.
I would say, I was going to say combo for the most part, but yeah, I mean, just like in general, I think combo is kind of tough for Eldrazi. That's definitely the decks that I don't want to play against when I'm playing that. So that's kind of what I would say, which,
but no one wants to play against combo.
Yeah, that's true. Boros doesn't either. So
yeah, I was just going to say, it seems like that means that it's rife for combo to make its way back to the top again in some other form.
Yes. Which in turn then might lead to a resurgence in control decks, or just Dimir being really strong in an environment where combo is really strong. So I can almost imagine that, not that Boros drops and Eldrazi rises to the top specifically, but I can see like a lot of ebb and flow coming in the weeks and months ahead of us, because I think there's a lot of these moving parts right now where we have pretty clearly defined powerhouses in aggro and midrange between Boros as well as Eldrazi and even Orzhov. And then between Belcher, Ruby Storm, and even like Titan and Sam combo, I think there's a lot of opportunities for these combo decks to start to evolve, while Dimir or other emerging control decks try to figure out like how they need to build their base to deal with both the combo side of the format as well as this board base side of the format.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that is missing from this top 10, I mean, if you go through all these decks, guys, there's no Mox Opal. Where'd it go?
Nowhere yet.
Yeah. And I think that is a big question of this format, is people trying to figure out what is the best Mox Opal deck, because I feel like you guys, I see you're highlighting the Brood Scale deck, which I think some of them do have Mox Opal. I don't know if all of them do, but I will say most of them do. But yeah, I think a big part of this format is figuring out what the best Opal deck is, because as we see Karn's, metagame share in Eldrazi decrease, I think you could certainly be in a good spot if you can find the best one.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention that Azorius Control is sneakily hiding in the meta here. There are 6 decks that were called Azorius Control. There's 4 that were called Blue-White and 2 that were called Miracles in the top 32 meta, which would put, if those are all 12 of those control decks, would put that in like a pretty, at the lower end of that top 8, in between Belcher and Sam combo. And then on the conversion side, it would be similar. There's 5 decks between Azorius Control, Blue-White, and Miracles that made it into the top 8. So that would put it kind of squarely into the top 8, the top of the meta, depending on if all of those are control decks, which I'm assuming that they are.
Yeah, I'm looking at one of the Azorius Control decks and one of the WU decks, and they look about the same. I think the only difference is one has main deck Chant and one doesn't, but they're both like, Solitude, Narset Days, and doing Teferi counterspells. So
yeah, and I was going to talk about this in a little bit because Azorius is the only deck that won a challenge that wasn't part of our top 8, kind of top 8, top of the meta. So the deck that won a challenge was an Azorius Control list by Paxi, Patxi, and it won a Sunday challenge, 406, went 9-1. And this is a deck that has, mostly I wanted to mention it because it had a couple of different things that I noticed across these control decks, which they're all doing, from what I saw, most of them are doing many Orange Chant main. Some have it on the side, like you said, Devin. Some of them are running Isochron Scepter. This list is running 1 Isochron Scepter main and 1 in the sideboard. I know, they're going for it. And they're running Days Undoing plus Narset. And I think that one of the Wombo combos here is putting Isochron Scepter. Oh, it doesn't cost. Okay, so that doesn't work with Days Undoing. No. For some reason, I saw somebody mention that you could do that. You can't do that. So, yeah, they're doing Chant Scepter stuff out here in 2025 and winning challenges.
Never thought I'd see the day, to be honest with you. But I mean, yeah, This deck is just, it's good. I think it has a reasonable matchup against Boros between, if you look at this, I think this version's playing Supreme Verdict, and is there any
Wrath of the Skies?
Wow. Oh,
that was the other thing that was really surprising me about this particular list, was the one that won had no Wrath of the Skies in it.
I guess it's because of the scepters, but yeah, most lists that I've seen do have Wrath and Verdict. So, that combination is pretty good against Boros. Plus you have all the counter spells and sideboard cards to fight against combos. So maybe Azorius is back.
Maybe. All right. So what do you all think about this top 8 meta? Any last thoughts before we move on to the winners?
Kind of makes sense. I guess this is maybe more combo than I would have expected, but given that, everybody essentially knew that Boros was going to be the deck to beat going into post breach, seeing this much combo, the way that it shaped out kind of makes sense.
It's more combo. It's more different combo than I was expecting, for what it's worth. I thought they would be combo. I just thought that it would mostly be people trying out Belcher. I didn't realize so many would make their way into this sample. And I think that ultimately one of these decks plus Titan will remain towards the top of the meta. And I don't really have a dog in that particular race, like if it's Belcher or Sam combo or Ruby Storm, but I feel like we'll end up with one of these and Titan being the kind of combo representatives at the top of the meta.
I'm okay with it. I think it's still so early.
Yeah.
But it looks fine. It doesn't look scary.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And I think it looks even less scary if you look at the decks that won these challenges. So here are the 6 decks that won these 9 challenges. 2 Ruby Storm, 2 Belcher, 2 Eldrazi Ramp. Those are the only decks that won 2. Then it's 1 Dimir Murktide, 1 Boros Energy, 1 Azorius Control. All right, so now that we talked about the winners, I was thinking that we could look at some interesting deck lists that I came across while I was working through this data, and also with a kind of a special focus on some of these winning decks, just to talk about kind of what's here at the top. So we talked about Blue-White Control already. I did want to talk about Energy. This is the Energy list that won on one of the other Sunday challenges by E. Kaminuma. And to me, this looks very, very stock. It's Guide of Souls, Pride, 4 Ragavan, Ajani, Flage, Seasoned Pyromancer as a 2 of, Galvanic Discharge, 2 Thraben Charm, Static Prison, Goblin Bombardment, Fable. Like, it's a pretty stock list, just trying different numbers. I guess the one thing I wanted to check was, have you always been running 4 Ragavan, Stan, or has it been, that number's been moving around a lot, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was hovering around 3 before. It started out as 4, then it went down to like 2 or 3. I guess now it goes back up to 4 because we have space from cutting Ranger Captain.
Yeah. Some of the lists that I saw, the other lists that I saw throughout the sample did still have Ranger Captain, but it is starting to feel like maybe Ranger Captain is not going to hang around. So I guess we will see.
I mean, it looks like it's just going back and forth. I can't make sense of it. And it's not even going back and forth because of the Jeskai decks. Like, the Jeskai decks aren't necessarily running it. Not all the Jeskai decks are even playing main deck Mockingbird. I think people just kind of like the fact that it tutors. Maybe it's decent against something like Storm,
right,
going up in the metagame. But yeah, it's been really inconsistent, and I would prefer not to play it, but we'll see.
Yeah, Ranger Cap.
Yeah, we'll see what the results shake out.
That's what I was going to say real quick. You know, on the topic of Ranger Captain, it's definitely fallen out of favor with that Breach, but there's still spell-based combo. There's Belcher, there's Storm. I guess that's really it in terms of the Living End sometimes too. So there's still some matchups where it's good, but for the most part, if you're leaning towards the mirror match, you'd rather have more Fables.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about Belcher really quickly. Not a deck any of us are experts in playing, but one of the challenges on Saturday was won by Manus235 on Belcher. And then the other Saturday challenge was also won by a Belcher player, Evie Hooner. Now, I want to talk about this person in particular. One thing is that their 2 lists are 74 of 75, the exact same lists, these 2 people.
Love that.
Which is pretty interesting. Makes you wonder if they're in the same Discord or whatever. But yes, they both managed to do it. Here is the other thing about Evie Hooner. Played in 4 challenges this weekend. One of the players that I saw the most across the sample, because I did a little pivot table on players in the top 32 meta. It led me to look into things a little bit more here. So Evie Hooner came in 1st and 2nd on Saturday in 2 different challenges, 12th on Sunday, and 6th in one of the challenges that was marked as Monday, all with Belcher.
Not bad.
Yeah. Pretty good weekend there. About this list, stuff that I thought was interesting that I hadn't seen is more just that they're running Thundertrap. I didn't realize that they were running Thundertrap Trainer and Flare Denial as like a protection package, which is pretty interesting there, and a card draw package as well. I mean, they're mono blue lists. I think other than that, it's probably what you would expect to see in a Belcher list. It's just all the like blue double face cards, Whir of Invention, all those kind of things.
Yeah, honestly, the thing that stands out to me the most about this list is the 3 main deck spell snares, which I think were not necessarily stock before, but with the uptick in Boros do make a lot more sense.
Yep. Literally the only difference between these 2 lists that won is that one has a Mystical Dispute in the sideboard and the other one has Tezzeret the Seeker in the sideboard.
Tezzeret's based.
Tezzeret. Yeah. Callback. All right. So keep an eye out for Belcher. Tough deck for sure. Storm. Let's talk about Storm. All right, 2 people won with Storm, but the list that I have in front of me is by Hugo Freitas, number 1, who's like a well-known Magic online player for sure. Wanted to note, similar to Evie Hooner, Hugo came in 1st, 14th, 32nd, and 19th in 4 different challenges with Storm during the sample. And I also went and looked on Twitter to see if they were saying anything, and he said that he's gotten 7 trophies with Storm since the ban. So storm it up. Here it is. Coming back. It's got an opening.
Is good. Good deck.
Not a lot to say about it.
No, I mean, I think this is the exact same list that Dingo played at the RC, if not maybe 1 card different on the sideboard. So yeah, it looks pretty good.
Do you think it's like actually better than it was 6 months ago?
It's a good question. I mean, it really all it comes down to is like what kind of sideboard cards do people have? The Boros list that Dave popped up, I think had, I'm looking at it now, 3 Deafening Silence on the board. So I mean, the more that people are gunning for you, the harder it's going to be. But I don't know. It's consistent. The fact that you have Ral and Ruby Medallion as discounters and all these draw twos, like you see a lot of your deck, and it is pretty consistent.
I mean, I don't know if we have to think about whether it's better than 6 months ago. We just need to think about whether it's better than 3 weeks ago, right?
Well, 6 months ago, the deck looked basically exactly the same, and it wasn't really worried about the post-unban Modern metagame. So I don't see how this deck has legs, per se, when it hasn't gotten any new toys and had like a big boon after MH3, but then people quickly realize that it kind of loses to itself sometimes, spins the wheels for too long, other faster decks get under it, and you can sometimes just like shut it down with 1 or 2 silver bullets.
Yeah, I guess we will see. All right, so the next list I wanted to look at was Dimir. I'm not looking at one of the winning lists. We're looking at Venom 1, who played 4 different challenges this week with the same list or close to the same list and came in 4th, 23rd, 3rd, and 5th. So that's the reason that I wanted to look at their list instead of the one that won, was just to kind of see what someone who was playing a lot was doing. And the big thing I noticed with these Murktide lists is that they are playing almost all of them are playing Kaido Bane of Nightmares as a 2 of now. So they're cutting back on Tamiyo. Tamiyo's down to a 2 of itself. They're playing a few Subtlety. This list by Venom 1 has 2 of them, but there's 2 Kaido Bane of Nightmares. And a Sauron's Ransom.
Ooh, spicy.
Look at that.
Wow.
You know what's surprising to me about Murktide? I mean, I know this has been a trend for a while now, but are you guys surprised that they stopped playing the Unearth and Abhorrent Oculus stuff?
No.
Okay.
I mean, personally, when I was trying Murktide, I didn't really like it. It's a lot of extra cards in your deck that I feel like are kind of just medium useful. And it's like, great, I can bring back a Psychic Frog with Unearth as well, or a Tamiyo or whatever. But when I was playing that list, it did just kind of always feel like I was just drawing more cards that weren't doing anything. And Oculus is just kind of fine, I think. I don't think it's like amazing, actually.
Seems like a much higher variance where if you draw the frog and the Oculus and the Unearth like all in the right order, and it's Tuesday and it's 7 p.m. like it kind of makes sense if the stars align, but then you have hands where you're just like opening a hand that has Oculus, Unearth, Counterspell, Fatal Push, 3 lands, and it's like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, sure, it's a really powerful drug to Oculus into an Oculus with Manifest Dread or whatever. But I would much rather be playing, honestly, I would much rather have where it's like, okay, occasionally I get to Divination with Sauron's Ransom or whatever to draw some cards because I don't have the ring anymore. Like, I don't know. I think this looks a little bit more like a interesting list to me, at least.
Devin throwing shade at Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean,
Tuesday is the day that we record.
Well, at least this week.
Yeah, true.
I think it's Kaido is the real upgrade.
Yeah, Kaido is nice.
I think replacing Oculus with Kaido does more for the deck than playing Oculus plus Unearth.
Yeah. Cool card. Kaido Bane of Nightmares. We'll have to keep an eye on that. All right. And that is sort of what we have as far as the Modern check-in goes. Any last thoughts before we pop over to some very quick early impressions of Dragonstorm, Tarkir Dragonstorm? This is what we were expecting, mostly, except for some extra combo.
They are who we thought they were. That's kind of what I feel.
I think the last thoughts to maybe tie it into the latest news since we last recorded was WotC announced that they will not make any bans during the RCQ season to the Modern format.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep.
And barring anything that happens because of Tarkir specifically, looking at this format, I think it could be okay. Like I predict that this is an environment that can see churn. And even though we have
Ugin.
Yeah, we'll see what Ugin does.
we'll see what Ugin does, but Ugin is still 7 mana. That like you need Tron lands on turn 3 to cast. And I think that's easy to disrupt. Like Ugin may be the best turn 3 Tron payoff we've ever seen, but you still have to get to turn 3 Tron, and turn 3 Tron is something that can be easily disruptible or gotten under. So, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we want like a new reward for the Tron players to actually make it work.
Maybe.
Because that forces the meta to change up a little bit too.
And let's talk about some things that we think might be changing or might change the meta from here. I'll go first.
Dragon's Eye basic lands.
Yeah, perfect. No, I'm actually not gonna go to a Tarkir card quite yet.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna stick in Aether Drift for a second.
Oh.
I think there's a couple cards in Aether Drift that we have not paid enough attention to yet. They're gonna start doing things.
Go off, King.
One of those cards is Stock Up. Now,
Card's good.
maybe everybody feels like we've talked about it enough, but the card is seeing play in Standard. It's seeing play in Vintage and like Legacy and stuff. It just hasn't found a home in Modern yet. And Devin tried it.
I did.
And how did you feel about it?
I played it in Eldrazi, and I had seen some people that were playing Simic Eldrazi lists that were playing, I think they had 4 Stock Up, 4 Simic Talisman. They had a couple Portent of Calamities, and I was like, well, I still want to play the K returns, so I basically just did like Teamer, split the Talisman, split some returns, split some Stock Ups, and it was good. The deck frequently has access to a boatload of extra mana, especially on turns where you're not casting Kozilek's Command, because on those turns you'll just use your extra mana into that. But it felt like the downside of it costing 3 was pretty easily mitigated by like Utopia Sprawl, Talisman, and Ugin's Labyrinth. So you have easy ways to ramp it out. And looking at 5 cards, that's so many cards, man. You see a lot of cards, but I thought it was really good.
Is it good if you cast it fairly? Meaning,
Just like tapping 3 lands for it?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
So you need to.
It's still good, but
I think it's probably good with Mox Opal.
Right. That's kind of the
You know what I
question.
mean?
Like, do you need something like Opal or Ugin's Lab or something that lets you ostensibly pay less than 3 lands worth of mana to make it playable?
Yes.
I think so,
but
yeah.
That's very achievable.
Perhaps
I
a
think.
Ral Monsoon Mage.
Oh. So we don't have to go too deep on this because we are coming close to our time, so I want to move through these. But I think that's one card that people should be keeping an eye on for various reasons.
It's also it's nearly $6. It's an almost $6 uncommon.
Uncommon.
It's
I know.
crazy.
Devin, I want to show you a list, switching to one last Aether Drift card before we say goodbye to this. Have you seen this list for Asmo Food by Karate Dom?
I have
11th place in the challenge
with Mako
on Saturday.
and Monument.
Asmo, Mako, the card that I was looking at was Monument to Endurance.
I think this is Spike's list.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe this is maybe like 1 or 2 cards different, but I saw Spike doing a lot of work on this Asmo Food list, and I mean I haven't played it yet, but it looks sweet as hell.
Yeah, so this list is Asmo, Mako, Inti, Oval Chase Daredevil, Street Wraith. So it's an Asmo Food list that is taking advantage of Mox Opal, for one thing, to help drive it to be faster, and then also Monument to Endurance, which, if you haven't seen this card, it's 3 generic, and it says whenever you cast, it's an artifact, and it says whenever you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn, either draw a card, create a treasure token, or each opponent loses 3 life. This is just like another way to get card advantage, kill people, and take, leverage multiple copies of Underworld Cookbook, all kinds of different things. I think Monument to Endurance is a very cool and interesting engine card that has some potential, especially with a lot of discard stuff that's been hanging around in Modern already.
Yeah, no, I'm into it. I mean, Cookbook pops off with Monument. That is kind of sick.
Yeah. All right. That's it for stuff that we're moving through sets so fast right now that we didn't even gotten to fully explore Aether Drift.
Should we start talking about Final Fantasy?
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to Final Fantasy and all that kind of stuff now.
I got a Tarkir card for you.
All right, let's do that.
It's not on this list, but I'm gonna read it out to you. And we did talk about this one during an episode. It's Cori Steel Cutter. So this is the equipment. It's red and colorless artifact equipment. The equip cost is red and colorless. Equip creature gets +1/+1, has trample and haste, and it has flurry, which is whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you make a 1/1 prowess token, and you can auto attach the Cori Steel Cutter to the token. So very powerful in obviously when you're double spelling. And believe it or not, I know, a lot of people want me to talk about, or you guys thought that I was talking about standard. I actually think this card has potential in modern because it's an artifact. So it works well with Mox Opal because Mox Opal wants artifacts for Metalcraft and Opal's a 0 for the cutter. It's an equipment, so you can fetch it out with Stoneforge Mystic. And it basically it plays well with Mishra's Bauble, Dragon's Rage Channeler, Mox Amber, all this kind of stuff. And I almost wonder if there's this weird red X midrange. Maybe you play white for Stoneforge. You do again Boros Stoneforge with Stoneforge, Cutter, Opal, Amber, all this kind of stuff. But I mean, my impressions of that card playing it in standard was phenomenal. And that's even without 0 mana cards. And again, the fact that it works so well with, again, all the Metalcraft stuff and Stoneforge, I think it maybe has potential.
Love it.
Interesting. Yeah, you don't have to ask me twice to play a mid-range red-white deck that uses Stoneforge into some weird stuff. I'm into it. Stan, any cards on your mind have you heard about in Tarkir so far, or have you been so unplugged?
I'm on island time, dog.
Yeah, island time. That is fair. I do have a card for you that I think we talked about earlier, but I think we have a little bit of confirmation, and that is Voice of Victory, which is the 1 and a white human bard with Mobilize 2, the 1/3 that says your opponents can't cast spells during your turn.
Ooh, confirmation in what regard?
So I don't know confirmation, but some data. So someone in our Discord, Granger, who's somebody who we met in Portland, lovely person.
What up, Granger?
Put up some playtesting impressions from trying Voice of Victory in Modern in Energy.
Okay.
And said that it was absurd.
Okay.
Which you kind of thought there was potential there. I believe when you talked about this card, he was basically like, listen, it goes so well with so many different things in the deck. The tokens it makes are red for Johnny.
Oh.
You can sack the tokens
to... Oh, they don't go away till end of turn.
Right, they don't go away till end of the next end step. Yeah. You can Goblin Bombardment them. The Voice of Victory goes absurdly well with Guide of Souls, of course, because anything with Mobilize would, but the fact that you can very quickly give your Voice of Victory flying so that it doesn't die, so you're flying over and sending these tokens across, and maybe the tokens die, maybe they don't. If they die, maybe you sacrifice them to bombardment and just move on with your life. Sounds absurd, and that's not even to talk about the extra rules text with your opponent can't cast spells during your turn. So if you have a way to if you Arena of Glory this out, where you can attack with it with haste, it's suddenly okay, so the opponent can't do anything, and you get an attack in before they can do anything, and you make all these tokens. Plus, think about these tokens with Ocelot Pride.
I'm thinking about it.
They don't go away till end of turn. You can stack the triggers to resolve the. Yeah, okay.
So you get to keep the copies of this that are made by Pride, right? But you lose the ones that are made by Mobilize.
The other thing that I just realized too that it's good with Guide of Souls is Guide of Souls triggers even if you don't have 3 energy. So if you attack with both Guide of Souls and the Mobilize dude and you only have 1 energy, you can resolve the Mobilize trigger first, get the energy, and then pay the energy that you didn't have before for the Guide of Souls.
Yeah, I believe that's correct too.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I may have to try this card.
You know that thing when a cartoon wolf sees a sexy other wolf, and
that's you right now.
Its tongue rolls out and its eyes bulge out. That me looking at the Voice of Victory.
That's what Adam Levine's text sounded like in that like scandal that he was involved in a couple years ago. That was like the personification.
My big issue is that the full art version with like all the black on the bottom looks really bad.
Yeah, you got to get the regular version.
You
Are
gotta
those
get
the ones that have like a big black smear on the bottom?
Yes.
They look pretty cool in person. I have to say, I saw a couple of
You seen one in
not
person?
this card,
Yeah.
but other cards in person like that, and they look pretty good.
I do have a few Dragonstorm Tarkir collector boosters, which I'm going to crack on my TikTok. Find me at Tender Situation for some videos about magic cards and comic books and other dumb stuff that I TikTok about. But maybe I'll get one of these black cards in there, and then I can finally see firsthand what they actually look like in person and decide from there if I want to get the nice version of Voice of Victory if it ever pops off in Modern.
But I think there's a chance it could be good. That it's just like Granger said, it's a good 2-drop that replaces Amped Raptor as like a must kill thing.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, not just for replacing Apt Raptor, but there's so many spell snares in the format that are eating up your Ajani's and bombardments. Having really impactful ways to pressure spell snares, I think, is also really nice.
Yeah.
And this one's good for counterbait too, because if they choose not to counter it, then they can't counter your next spell. So if you're ever double spelling with this thing, like on turn 4 or something, like they have to counter this basically.
Yeah.
Good point. All right. We talked about Ugin.
Did we talk about Ugin?
We talked about Ugin earlier. I don't really have anything else to say about it right now, other than it's probably going to be good. We'll probably have some deck lists that pop up tomorrow. I mean, it's Tuesday night right now. We'll probably see some challenges on Wednesday that have it, right?
One thing I will say about it, because I actually did play a little bit of MTGO early access. I didn't play any Modern today, but I played maybe like an hour or so of games with Ugin, playing against a couple of people, in the early access thing. And I only played Tron. I didn't try it outside of Tron. But from my understanding, I do kind of agree with what Stan said earlier. Like, you really do want to be playing this with Tron. I think that you still will play copies in Eldrazi, but in order to maximize it, you do want to be playing Tron. Because, I mean, there was a game where I just went turn 3, cast this, kill a permanent, add mana, play a mana rock, kill a permanent, play another mana rock, kill a permanent. It's just like, it is absurdly powerful if you cast it on turn 3. Is good.
It's the best Karn Liberated ever.
Yeah. And then some.
Yeah. So we'll be keeping an eye out on that. And then, Devin, any other cards that you got big impressions of from streaming today?
Yeah, so
even standard.
Yeah. So speaking of planeswalkers, we can talk about the other planeswalker in the set, Elspeth. I remember the full name, Storm's Fury or something, or Elspeth. Something. Dave will find the name for me. But for the listeners at home, I'll read it off real quick. So it's 5 mana for 5 loyalty. It has the static text of, if a token would be created under your control, you create twice that many tokens. +1, make a 1/1, which is 2 1/1s because of its own ability. 0, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and they gain flying until the end of your opponent's next turn. And then -3, kill a creature with mana value 3 or greater.
Elspeth Stormslayer.
That's the one, Slayer of Storms. This card was my pick for best card in the set for standard purposes. So it was, the first card that I tried on stream when I played some standard today, and it did not disappoint. I think I went, the first deck that I played was like a Celestia Tokens deck with like Beanstalk, Caretaker's Talent, Overlords, Sweepers, Carrot Cake, that kind of stuff. And I think I went on like a 8 or 9-0 run, and it was obscenely powerful every time I drew Elspeth. And what's so sick about Elspeth is she makes 2 bodies to protect herself, so it gives you 2 blockers and goes to 6 loyalty. So it's nearly impossible to kill in combat. And what's crazy to me about it is it just turns the corner so quickly, because you're making a lot of bodies if you pair it with like Overlord or Carrot Cake. And the fact that it gives your entire team flying is just like, it is just lethal on the spot a lot of the times. And just going from like I said, just being able to turn the corner so quickly in those decks is, the card's just crazy. I think it's nuts.
Nice.
And you think possible for other formats, like maybe Boros Convoke-esque stuff in Modern or Pioneer, or do you think it's not quite there?
A little bit too slow for Modern for sure.
Yeah.
Pioneer, maybe like Azorius Control could play a couple copies. I don't think you need to be synergizing with the tokens too much because it is kind of like self-fulfilling in a way where it makes 2 tokens every time you plus it. But certainly more powerful the more token generators you have, like the Overlords, and even with Fountain Port, did make 2 tokens off Fountain Port, like that's still pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that makes sense.
You say it's too slow for Modern, but that Miracles list that Dave, I think it won a challenge, or maybe it was just
there were 1 Miracles in the top 8s and there were 2 in the top 32s.
All right, so the Miracle is from the top 8. Not only did it have like 5 mana to fairy, it had a Celestial Colonnade. So nothing's too slow for Modern today.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Wow, Celestial Colonnade. Any other big hits before we kind of get out of here?
It's kind of all I got for now.
Same. It's time to draft.
He's on island time.
And play some Modern.
The LGS down the street from me that I can walk to has an RCQ this Saturday. I don't know if I can swing it.
Ooh.
But
got to get those Voice of Victories first.
Bro, I have one. If you can get some more, I have one.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I got one right here. I just saw it's $16 on Card Kingdom right now.
I don't have the Consign to Memories.
I got Consign to Memory.
Okay.
If you try it, let me know.
All right. Time to start groveling to my wife.
I'm going to Collecticon Chicago this weekend.
You're going to Collecticon? Dude, you're taking the boys?
2 of my friends wanted to go. The 2 of the other dads from around here wanted to go look at Pokemon cards because their kids are very into it.
Wow.
My kids are much more ambivalent, but they like hanging out with their friends.
Yep.
So we're going.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. Curious to see what all's going to be there. Have you been to that before?
No, but I've been getting served the ads on social, and it looks scary. It looks like it's a bunch of like baseball and Pokemon, of course, but
yeah,
just like a lot. There's a lot of things to collect in this day and age.
Yeah. So if you're around the Donald E. Stevenson or Stevens,
I think it's the Donald E. Stevenson Convention Center.
Yeah, up in Rosemont, and let me know. Hit me up on Blue Sky. I'll be around there.
I'm scared of Rosemont. That's a mob town.
I didn't say that.
It's the truth. It's the truth. Google it. Okay. And while you're doing your own research, that wraps up this week's show. Don't forget, we want to crowdsource your DRS, your Deathrite Shaman lists. We'll do the testing for you. Just you do the work of putting together a deck list. You can email that to thedivedown@gmail.com. No matter what, you got to subscribe to our podcast, get the latest episodes as soon as they come out, and make sure to search and subscribe to What's That in Your Pocket, our official public sister show where Shane and I talk about handheld gaming. If you'd like to submit a question to the podcast in general, you can email thedivedown@gmail.com as well. You can find us on Blue Sky. You got to subscribe to Devin over at twitch.tv/Doomwake. You can support us on patreon.com/thedivedown. You can support us with some accessories over at heavyplay.com with promo code thedivedown2025. It gets you 10% off your first order at Heavy Play, and we get an affiliate bonus as well. You can support us while practicing for your upcoming RCQs on Magic Online with a subscription to Mana Traders. Promo code TheDiveDown, all one word, will get you a 25% cash back bonus after 3 months of Mana Trader service. As always, special thanks to the bands Nowhere and Spaceblood for letting us use their music. And until next week, look toward the skies. The dragons are coming!
Are they though?